In a world filled with fear and doubt, one man, Jason Rumble, will change the course of events. It's Being Humble with Jason Rumble, now on YouTube. Now introducing the bad boy of Boston, the alpha dog, Jason Rumble.
Right here, the champ has come to town, baby! Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this week on episode 3 of Being Humble with Jason Rumble, we will talk the history of independent wrestling in the state of Maine. One of my guests this week is not only a promoter, he's not only an entertainer, he's not only a used car salesman, but he's become one of my closest friends, not only in professional wrestling, but in life itself. Don't call him Aura, because he might sprat you all over. It's Sonny Roselli, to those who know him. Hey, Sonny, welcome to the show.
J. Rum, what's going on? And that's new car salesman, not used car.
New used. You'll put him in anything. Who you kidding?
Oh, that's right. But the perception of used car is not good. I'm a new car salesman.
A new car salesman. Where can they come and visit you if they want to heckle you?
I'm the general manager over here at Varney Chevrolet in Pittsfield, right in Maine. Easy to find me. 1-800 number. Give me a call. I'll find something that works for you.
There you go. See, another sponsor right to my show to add to the 3 I got. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of independent professional wrestling in Maine. Now, I really don't know all that much about the independents here in Maine. My recollection is probably the first that I ever knew was just getting hired by James St. Jean and Tony Atlas. So, to me, that's 1999. Before that, fill me in. What were the indie shows? What were the indie talent up here?
There was only a couple. Vince ran here every couple of months back in the early 80s, but ICW with Mario Savoldi used to come to Bangor, Brewer, Rockland every month or so. So my first experience in indie wrestling was ICW. Tom Brandy was there, Jumpin' Joe Savoldi, all of the shenanigans from them. They had a TV show that was also on up here. So real indie, the first one was Mario. ICW was up. And then Joey Jeanette, who used to run the fair circuit.
Okay.
They used to NCW. I forgot his name. Crap. He runs out of the gym in New York, Gleason's Gym.
Okay.
Johnny Rods would come up at the fairs in the summertime as a kid. So you'd go there and you see Johnny Rods and all those guys. Snuka sometimes. Young kid, I saw Cousin Luke versus Iron Mike Sharp, hit the ropes, blow the ring, imploded onto the ground.
Oh, wow.
So for my younger years, it was ICW and then the summer fair shows. It wasn't until, I think, 98, 99 when EWA came.
Okay.
EWA, so before that, it was Fed only and Mario and the summer fair shows. Lobster Man did a couple of shows up here at fairs in Brooksville. No, Brooks. Remember we used to have a show there in the summer? Well, did you ever work? You probably didn't work that one, but we had a show there. So he would come up for a couple fair shows. Wasn't a lot. There wasn't any indie wrestling until EWA and Jane St. Jean.
Yeah.
From there, Ken Banks, Legion Cage, started his own company, RPW. That's where I first worked.
Oh, wow.
EWA wouldn't hire me because they considered me a backyarder.
Okay.
So we went, RPW started running once a month. EWA had their show once a month. Then you remember, I forgot his name, Paul Adams. He had Main Event Wrestling out of Portland.
I heard of him.
He had a TV show. He ran against EWA. He actually hired me, put me on TV, put me over all the EWA guys on Portland TV, the backyarder. So there's a progression. I've been a fan since I was a little kid, so I know anything. If there was any kind of wrestling going on, I knew it. I used to bug Gene St. Jean trying to get him to train me because they used to put on their poster the phone number.
Yeah.
I call the phone number and I'd always ask you, can we train? Oh, no, I don't have a training school. Okay. Rampage started, and that's when everything started to explode. Rampage morphed into NWH Pro. Remember that was me and Larry Huntley?
Yep.
And then you worked a little with us, and we worked out of Sanford.
Yes, sir.
From there, there was North Atlantic. That was me out of Old Town.
Yep.
Ryan Michaels Colson runs the show now. You have a thing. Early indie, it was Savoldi only in the fair shows. There was no, like down in Mass, there was people everywhere.
Yes.
Kowalski. Oh, no, let me not forget. Kowalski used to do the PALs.
Okay.
Yep. He came up here with Terror Rising, and I forgot the Cronus. Cronus was there, and then his partner.
Probably Perry Satin.
Perry Satter was there. Yep. And Tim McNeely and Chris Duffy.
Yeah.
I remember those guys. They came up. They did all the high schools.
Yes,
all
sir.
the high schools, and they did the PALs. So the Police Athletic Union was getting money to have these shows.
Those are the days of the old school soul shows.
Yes, paid shows.
Legitimately, when I first got Tony Rumble's book, there was a thing that was called ABC Promotions, and the guy who ran ABC Promotions was Fred Smirlis from the New England Patriots, and he played for the Buffalo Bills and was also a graduate at Boston University. But Smirlis ran the fundraising company. They would buy these shows. I seen the $4,000 a company would pay for these shows. But they'd have telemarketers that would call and and at the end, with your donation, you get 4 tickets. That's how we used to get 5 to 100, like 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 people. There was actually effort put into us as promoters didn't have to do crap.
Nope. I actually got free tickets because my grandfather owned a company, made a donation, got 4 free tickets. So that's how I ended up going to the shows in Brewer. So I did. Kowalski ran once in a while the paid shows. Mario would have shows all the time, do some TV. And then Joey, I think it's Joey Jeanette out of New York that ran the fair shows. And that was it forever and ever until EWA popped up.
Yep.
And now, I mean, the indie wrestling in Maine is crazy. Everybody does it once.
Yep.
Right.
I think of it this way, though. Everybody has a certain respect for their territories, and everybody has a respect on not to run on the same dates. The only person who runs differently than what we would run style shows is Randy Carver. Carver's the only guy that goes out of pocket, doesn't take any in-state really, and gets genre-style wrestling, and is willing to go to the casino crap table and throw his money, and he brings it back, and that's kudos to him. But it's not, to me, that's traditionally not Maine wrestling. What you, more or less it's you, because even myself, I try not to take all Maine guys. I try to make it different, even though my closest show to you is 2 hours. I still, no matter what, I'll still get a dozen people who go to see us in Brewer that if I put a couple of guys on that card that they like, they'll come up to my show.
Oh, I've seen guys, Fort Kent, they come up from Brewer or Farmington. There's a clan of people that always happen to make all the shows, especially if there's one of our guys on it. If Eric Johnson on, he brings at least 10. I mean, for 2 hours away, which is crazy. A lot of it, we run the same thing. Randy Carver's doing something a little different. Let's Wrestle and Us. We had a show on the same night. Wasn't intentional, but it's hard to draw from the same fan base, right? Yeah, I don't think it was malicious intent. I just think it's how it fell, and we still did fine. I mean, I didn't lose any money.
Yeah. I look at it this way. They run a different product than what MEW, what IWE runs, what Larry runs down in the Portland area, even what they consider the backyarders that are up north. But I can't even say I'll be honest with you. They may be backyarders, but they spend money on legit wrestlers to come in and show them legit moves.
Sure. I mean, up north, they're bringing guys in. They just got to draw some more fans.
Yep.
Because when you're a young promoter or whatever, it's more about writing the book instead of putting people in the seats.
Yep.
If we don't get 75 to 100 people, I'm pissed. Because I go out and put out a lot of work in putting up posters and trying to network. 100 people is a minimum. If I can get 110, it feels good to have, because we're running tiny buildings, so
Yeah.
it feels louder than it is. 100 people packed in Cityside is a loud place to wrestle.
Yep.
I wrestled in Mass in front of 14. It was horrible.
Yep. I know. I probably promoted that show.
It was, well, yeah. Club Liquid in not Leominster. Club Liquid in Lowell, not Lowell. Oh, it's the bad. I
heard
can't.
of that show.
Oh yeah.
I heard of that show.
Yeah.
I've
There
been on them.
6 people, and the guy gave me $5. I gave it back to him. Told him he needed the money.
Listen, some of the best shows I've been on had 5 people on them.
Yeah. Well, we worked at Skips.
Skips.
Yeah. Sometimes Skips would be packed, and sometimes it'd be 10 people.
And sometimes all you need was that one drunk guy that set the tone for the whole night.
Right, and then it's the loudest place it is. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Indie wrestling is booming now. I mean, there's so many different options. When I was coming through, 15 years ago, I had to travel to Massachusetts. Now guys can get plenty of work in-state, hone their skill, and go. It doesn't seem like they want to go, though.
No.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys want to just stay here and be a hero in their own town.
Yep.
Right?
I can't deal with that.
Right. Well, you and I traveled. I mean, we would go long trips. We went to Tennessee a couple of times.
Yeah.
You went to Winnipeg when you were the junior champion, just trying to make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
We went to Florida, right? I wrestled exclusively all over the eastern seaboard in Canada, 10-day tours. You did the same thing.
Hey, just to keep me in a mental mind state, I spent more money on stuff to keep my mental mind
Right.
occupied rather than the money I spent on wrestling shows.
Exactly. But yeah, no, wrestling's in a good state. The COVID's kind of slowed us down, but there's plenty of different styles of wrestling going on. I mean, there's Let's Wrestle, there's Limitless, there's Us, there's SpongeBob. I'm not going to call him Ryan Michael Colson because he's always been SpongeBob. There's the new guy, MEW, whatever he's doing. You run some shows. The one out of Augusta with JP O'Reilly. I mean, there's so many different options. Now, here's the thing, though. How many are you going to tell them they made a profit?
Yeah, exactly.
Carver makes a profit. We sometimes make a profit.
Yeah.
Who else?
I have to have a really good show in order to come out with a payday for myself.
Right.
90% of the time, it's me I'm happy breaking even. I tell people this all the time, and they say, well, how can you be happy breaking even? Where I run, and in my community, the once a month I run, if I get the 50 to 75 to 100 people, every one of those people goes away happy and looking forward to the next show. And even if it's just entertaining my daughter and my son, to me, to a certain extent, it's worth it. I made my kids happy.
As long as it doesn't cost me money, I'll continue to do it. If it costs me $100, sometimes my bar tab's bigger than what I made just to keep the boys happy. I'm always buying them drinks after.
I'm lucky. I have a great, my community here, they're not afraid to give us a few bucks for an ad book. To know that, I got to pay for the building in order to have this talent come up. It costs $300 to $500 and to make sure that they want to travel. Like, I just ain't where you are. I'm on average 3 hours further.
Right.
So a $20 payday, they're not having that. They want 20 plus some gas. They might want some beer. Who knows? They might want some things for their lungs,
No,
so I'm into party favors. I'm into paydays. But
listen.
I'll tell you, if those guys are happy, which I know that I probably have not had many people that are not happy working for me, because they go back and they imitate me and they go like, oh, wow, you're Jason Rumble. I heard so much about you. I'd love to work for you, even though you give $10 in party favors. You're the man, so I feel like it's a success.
Everybody does the Rumble voice. Rumble. I do it to my salesmen sometimes. They come in, I'm like, go get them, kid.
Go get them, kid.
Always, always. But yeah, it's a whole different atmosphere now than it was when I was a kid. It wasn't any shows to see. Now there's 5 different shows a month, and you can have a different flavor and meet different people. I mean, that's what it's about. My company is to give a chance to the new guys who just got trained. You need to, because you don't have to be aesthetically perfect, but you're going to get there. And as long as you try and not hurt anybody, we're gonna roll with it.
And I'll be honest, that's what I enjoy about working for you guys. I get to see a lot of the young guys, and if I can pass any words of wisdom on to advise them, I try to do it. Do some of them listen? Some do, some don't. But, that's why I'll say this. Big Raph, I'm a huge fan of Raph, and I believe Raph is the one guy, if he goes to the right place, he'll catch on. Okay, so you mentioned the Savoldis, you mentioned that so let's fast forward. NWA on Fire. It's no joke. We know that you helped promote with that product. You grew up knowing that these guys gave you independent professional wrestler to watch. Now you're their partner. What must that be like?
Well, here's what happened. Me and Larry wrestled for the Savoldis in Puerto Rico for IWA. We had a really good 2-day tryout. They planned on bringing us back. Everything's going to be great because now we're going to come down there monthly and wrestle for them. Well, Mario has a blowout with Savio.
Yeah.
Mario sneaks off the island, takes all the footage that he had because he's been spending a lot of money on it, and they were drawing 2,500 people. So now Savio wants to kill Mario because he split the partnership up and took all the tapes. So now I have their contact. So I call them up and say, hey, you guys used to run Maine. I used to go to it. I've got all these buildings that we can run. And with your TV product, I think we can have something that's going to be worthwhile. You saw their TV. It was tremendous.
Yep, I know. I used to commentate on it.
Right. So we start a partnership, NWA on Fire. I'm a third owner, right? Things are going good. We're building stuff up. I don't have no part of the TV, even though I'm selling it. We were on from Portland to Fort Kent. Yep. I'm selling to the TV station, but I don't get any cut of the TV. I only get the houses. So it was great. It was 18 months of the best wrestling that we've ever had. The roster on there could compete with anybody.
Yes,
right?
sir. I know.
We had giants. We had built guys. We had we had cruiserweights. We had me, Larry. We had the Samoans.
Fury's crew to come up. You guys got Chaotic's crew to come up.
Yeah, that was after
the product grew.
But the product was really good. The TV was the best there was. And I was a mark because I was fans of Savoldis, right? I was a mark because as a kid, those were the guys, right?
Yep.
Everything was going good. We started to draw big crowds. But every weekend that we were here, I would lose money. Like I would say I'm supposed to make $700. Sonny, you only got 300. Because I was also the ring rental. Yep. I didn't give him the ring. I rented it to him, but for cheap money, like cheap. So I should make $700 for ring rental. Oh, we always lost $500 of my 30. So I'd get $200 for the ring rental for the whole weekend.
Wow.
And but I mean, the last show that we did in the Armory drew like 350 people. That cage match, the barbed wire match that we had.
Yep.
And we still lost money. We had 2 paid shows and 1 live show. 2 paid shows paid almost $6,000. The live show, we lost our ass. We still lost money. What Mario was doing was, if you notice, we had a lot of Puerto Ricans on the show.
Yep.
He was still selling the TV to the Puerto Ricans, which I got no piece of. So if I can't get piece of all the money, I eventually quit.
Yeah, I know.
But it was 18 months of fun. I mean, it was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. You were on the shows. You know the talent that was there.
Yeah, I know. At the end, you had, like I said, you had Brian Fury's crew coming up. You had a group of Chaotic. Like, if anybody who follows New England indie wrestling, Chaotic is basically a place where young, aspiring indie wrestlers want to end up to work. So with those guys basically reaching out to you to work for you, that's saying something huge about something that you were putting out on at that time.
We were drawing great crowds. Rockland was packed. Mexico was packed.
Love going to Mexico.
Yeah. Augusta was packed.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah. I mean, it was great while it was rolling. We just couldn't. I don't think the Savoldis valued what I did for them.
Yep.
Right. The ground game, getting the ring there, getting everything set up, putting up the 100 posters in every town, getting us in the newspaper because I would write articles about how Jason Rumble from here is going to be defending this, and they would put it in the paper for us.
Yeah.
And we had legitimacy because we were on real TV.
Yep.
Right. And the product, their TV production was second to none. I mean, you can still see that on YouTube, all the NWA on Fire stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think independent professional wrestling in the state of Maine will ever get back on to network television to a certain extent?
I could be on network television right now if I had somebody who could produce a show for me. You know what I'm saying? I have the contacts to be on real television. I just don't have the ability to make the television. And I'm torn between. I like it the squash matches. You know what I'm saying? In the 30-minute television. That's what I like. My partner doesn't like that. I hate the video clips of, they're just random show.
Yep.
So besides production, I would have to set up how we're going to do it because I don't like just going to the show and clipping pieces together and throwing it on TV.
You would want one show to be a legit TV taping,
Yep.
and then one to be like a house show.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we're still fighting about that. Plus, we've got to try to find somebody to produce. I've talked to a couple of people about it, but it's just whether I can pull it off. I have access to whatever the cable company is. They have a station that I can get on, and that goes statewide. And I'm pretty sure I can get back on Fox TV or TV ME out of Portland because I had the contacts with the TV stations, not Mario.
Well, I am now affiliated with the professional producer. And my producer's sitting right across from me, and there ain't nothing that this man can't do and put together. And he loves wrestling. He's a wrestling coach.
All right.
So I mean, look, he's giving up. He could be home right now with his wife and kids, and he's here sitting with me taping this stuff. So if you ever really do feel anxious about getting back on the TV and doing the right thing, I'd love to help.
What I'd like to do, and I've talked to Baum about this, is do a pilot. Yeah. One pilot. That way I can go to the TV stations and pitch it. Right? Yeah. Because if we can make a pilot that looks good, then I can present, this is what we looked at. Because when I was with Mario, I took his IWE tapes or CDs and went to the TV stations and showed them, this is my program.
That's what I used to do for him down in Massachusetts and stuff.
Yeah.
He'd send me all that stuff. And I'd try to get him on the cable access networks in Massachusetts. What about just like doing a studio style television taping to shoot a pilot? That way you can make all the production right and choose the matches that you would want.
Sure. I mean, I'd be open to anything. I've looked at other smaller buildings just to run it separately from our regular shows.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's discuss it and see if we can put something together.
That would be awesome. I think doing something before a Cityside show and making it like a legit television show where we could cut an action and
and cut the program, go over and do your promo when you're supposed to, right?
For some reason, my video just went blank for a second.
Yeah, I still see you.
You still see me. I don't see me. But anyways, well, if there's anything you could add in that they're not doing on indie wrestling nowadays that you used to see when you were growing up that you would like to see come back?
Believability. I think that's what it's lacking. When I was a kid, they were bigger than life. I believed it. Now, guys hit 87 moves and it doesn't mean anything. Do you know what I'm saying? I want the finisher to be a finisher. I want you to sell that. I don't need you to nip up after you just broke my neck.
Okay.
Right? More believability, realism. Wrestlers used to be feared. Now they're a joke, somewhat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying. I'm one of the guys that's always reading Facebook, and I'm like, okay, you cut a good promo, but I've seen you work in the ring, and your promo does not meet the actions you can do. Like I made a comment the other day that I can't wait for the first indie show to come on because some of these guys who couldn't work to save their life before the pandemic happened, they're cutting promos and they're doing these things as if they morphed to this wrestling school and they're going to be the best entertainers in the world.
Right.
The one thing I ask is for IWE, and this is my wish, I love horror. I love Lights Out Lee Miller. But please, I beg you, please, do not promote that match to come back as one of our first. Please do not do that. Please, I beg you, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, Lee, I like you. Horror, I like you. I feel that unless you guys are in a wrestling ring for about a month practicing, that match is going to be ultimate drizzling dog shits. And
I
I
haven't
don't
read.
even know if my match can help bring back the crowd.
I haven't read Facebook too much, but I see people trying to put themselves over. I just giggle because we have no plans for anything, right? And they're
Yeah.
in their own angles. But Lee Miller has a company, so he might be able to pull it off there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he's part of the main, whatever that other one is, the Power Pro main militia. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Man, guys got to understand you can't just open up a company because you're not a star. Like, you just learned how, like, legitimately, Lee's a good kid, but Lee just learned how to, like, last year, Skowhegan Fair, he was like, and now he's just getting his feet under him to a certain extent.
I think
Being
he's
around
part owner.
Larry.
He's part owner, and Larry saved him. I would have kicked the kid out 3 or 4 times until Larry came to me and said, this kid's changed. Let's give him a chance.
Yep.
So I listened to Larry.
Larry Huntley has helped save him.
Yep, I agree. But all right, man, I got to get back to work.
Sonny, thank you very much for being on with Being Humble with Jason Rumble. And next on the hot seat, Being Humble with Jason Rumble. He is a wrestling fan. He is vastly on his way to being a wrestling historian for the state of Maine. His name is Mike Labee. He's also known as the Wrestling Insomniac. Here he is to tell us his story on maybe some stuff that we don't know about the history of the state of Maine and independent professional wrestling. Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So I went to Google. I wanted to find some fun facts out, and your name came up. So I said, you know what? It would be fun for an interview. Why read? So I brought the encyclopedia to me. I was basically told the first independent professional wrestling that people can remember would be ICW, and that would be with the Mario Savoldis of this world.
Yeah,
What would be
ICW.
some other independent professional wrestling before EWA? Some things that maybe we never even knew came up here.
Well, I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go. Vern Gagne wrestled some matches in Lewiston in the 50s and 60s.
Love it. See, this is some stuff I'd love to know.
I don't have it right here in front of me. If you give me a minute, I can pull it up in front of me.
Yeah.
But Vern Gagne, I mean, so Vern Gagne wrestled some matches in the 50s and 60s. The Augusta Armory, I found a poster once for shows in the 1923, I believe it was.
Oh, wow.
The Augusta Armory, it was professional wrestling, if you will. But, I mean, yeah, you're kind of right. I mean, EWA was really the first big one after ICW. Yankee Pro ran some shows in Maine as well. I believe they're based out of Mass, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, Yankee Pro Wrestling used to run some shows down in southern Maine as well, Portland area. After ICW, before EWA. But really, I mean, the Savoldis kind of dominated the field. I mean, they ran everywhere in Maine, from and oddest places too. They ran shows up in Presque Isle. They had ran shows in China, Maine. I mean, they even had title changes over there in China.
Wow.
You know, they ran a lot of shows. Probably their biggest show, though, the factoids I have right here in front of me right now that I pulled up to talk about this. February 27th, 1985, Savoldi and they promoted a show at the Bangor Auditorium.
Oh, wow.
And main event on the card was Dory Funk Jr. wrestling Carlos Colon for the World Wrestling Council Universal Championship. And Dory won the title in Bangor, Maine.
Oh, wow.
From Carlos. Yeah. Now, here's what's great, because he was supposed to. So the advertised bout for this was Carlos defending the title against Black Gordman.
Yep.
But, you know, card subject to change, Gordman wasn't on the show, and so Dory Funk stepped in to wrestle Carlos that night. And Dory took the title from Carlos, which is really kind of amazing. And Funk was supposed to wrestle Hercules Aiea that night. So the match was about 11 minutes long. Carlos got all busted open and bloodied, and Funk pinned him with both his feet on the ropes to win the Universal title. It's
Wow.
The only time is now. Here's what's also interesting. It's the only time in that title's history that it changed hands off the island of Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dory won it February 27th, 1985. He dropped the title back to Colon on June 15th, 1985 in San Juan. So I mean that's a pretty huge, kind of unique historical wrestling moment to me that happened here in Maine, because, you know, it's a Puerto Rican championship from a well-known Puerto Rican company. The only time it's changed hands outside the island is in Bangor, Maine, for some reason.
That's amazing.
So
now, what is the first recollection of independent professional wrestling in the state of Maine?
For me, it was watching it on. We had just gotten cable in Litchfield, and this was 1989, I believe, maybe 1990, and it was ICW.
Yep.
It was before they were International World Class Championship Wrestling. It was just International Championship Wrestling, and it was it was on the local Network 9 channel.
Yeah,
the one that EWA had a show on, 10 years later, and Tony would have his show on when he had USA All-Star Wrestling. But it was, and this is, and the commentators, I can't remember the guy, but it was Boston Bad Boy Tony Rumble was doing the color with the other guy. And this is, to me, where I realized that wrestling as a kid, I was 10 or 11 years old, had different tiers of wrestlers. Yep. Because I had watched Superstars of Wrestling that morning, and I saw Iron Mike Sharp on the show, and Mike Sharp, of course, was an enhancement talent, whatever. He lost every time you saw him at that point on Superstars. And then a couple hours later, I'm watching ICW, and there's Tony Rumble talking about Iron Mike Sharp, and he's smacking his forearm where Sharp had that gauntlet on, and he's putting Sharp over huge as being like a big, bad competitor. So then we cut to the show, and I think it was taped in Lewiston, actually, based on the appearance of it. And Mike Sharp, I think he beat Sonny Beach or somebody, but Mike Sharp went over huge. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I used to call the job guys bums when I was a kid, because these are the bums. These are the guys that always lose. They're bums. So I was like, oh my God, the bums have bums. So I thought I could do that. I could be a bum to the bum in wrestling. Like, if I got into wrestling, that's what I could do. I could be the job guy to the job guys on WWF TV. So that was kind of one of my big realizations, that wrestling had different tiers as far as, where the guys were and everything on the card. Also, that guys that maybe don't get the time and shown highlighted on WWF TV are actually really great wrestlers if they're given the chance to show it, and that's the independents.
Yes. Barry Horowitz is one of the guys that, man, I went down to Florida, and that dude could work.
Oh, yeah.
Him, and I worked with Alex Porteau, the Pug.
Oh, the Pug, yeah. Alex the Pug Porteau, yeah. Another guy?
Legit shooter. Legit
Oh, yeah.
shooter.
Oh, I believe it.
He heard I was from Kowalski's. And he told me, he goes, I ran into you Kowalski boys a lot. You're not going to go out there and start shooting on me, are you? I was like, don't worry about it, man. I heard about your background. Meanwhile, he's fearing me. But then
No.
I understood, like, I got trained by a guy that got trained by Luthez. Luthez
Right.
used to twist people for a living. So now
Right.
I kind of understand why people, like, would get that persona when, like, so he's a Kowalski guy. They
Yep.
shoot.
Yeah. They're
Meanwhile,
gonna
I
do.
didn't shoot at all. I wanted my matches to be very neat.
Neat and orderly. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish I could find those notes I had on. Because I have notes. Because I started taking notes on those old matches. Oh, here it is. Okay.
If you had to guess, when do you think was the first independent wrestling show in the state of Maine?
Hold on a second. I actually have it right here. Hold on. I'm looking through this notebook I have right here.
Cool.
Here we go. Vern Gagne, 12/7/1954, wrestled Manuel Cortez in Portland. March 22nd, 1955, he wrestled Yukon Eric in Portland at the Expo.
Okay.
March 24th, 1955, he wrestled Pat O'Connor in Lewiston, the former NWA.
Oh, Irish Pat O'Connor.
Yeah. Vern Gagne was the NWA United States champion at the time, and he defended it against Pat O'Connor in Lewiston on March 24th, 1955.
Wow. I would have never have even known that Vern Gagne ever been to the state of Maine.
Yeah, and then he wrestled April 27th, 1955. He defended the title against Hans Schmidt in Lewiston and walked away victorious.
Oh, wow. Another legit shooter right there, Vern Gagne.
Oh, hell yeah, he was. Absolutely, he was. I wish I knew who he wrestled for. Maybe it was ICW, but, Robbie Ellis wrestled some matches in the 80s in Bangor. Like, there was a big article in the Bangor newspaper about it. So I don't know when the first actual indie show was in Maine.
That would be interesting, man. I want to find.
I'll have to look into it.
I would love to know. I would love to know who was on it, who promoted it. Like, this is all it's got to be. You found that poster there from 1920, correct?
Yeah.
It's got to be probably right around there, I bet. Who was on that poster?
Trying to remember now. Yeah, if I can find it, I apologize. I don't have it right here.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
I'll see if I can find it though.
So, you being a wrestling fan and also being a podcast journalist like myself, and you're well on your way to becoming a historian on the state of Maine indie wrestling, as far as I'm concerned, because you're out there trying to collect the numbers and trying to collect all the dates, and we need people like that. This is interesting stuff. When did you first become a wrestling fan?
My dad liked wrestling when I was a kid, and so almost kind of by default, I liked wrestling. Like, he always watched it, I always watched it. So he always rented the tapes. I mean, I was born in 1979, so maybe 1980. I don't know. He always rented the tapes when we had a VCR. We'd have to rent a VCR half the time as well before we bought one from the video store. So we always watched it on TV. He took me to my first show, WWF show in 1989 in Portland at the Civic Center. My first indie show was a EWA show in 97, but I watched, all kinds of wrestling on TV.
Yeah.
All different promotions, WWF, AWA, UWF, NWA, WCW, AWA and ESPN. Like I said, ICW, then IWCCW. I mean, everything I could find wrestling I watched and consumed.
Now, aside from, because I don't really count Limitless Wrestling or Let's Wrestle as true independent wrestling yet, because Randy Carver brings a different he brings a different ball game.
Yep.
True independent professional wrestling match that you've been to. What's the best true indie match you witnessed in the state of Maine?
Man, that's a tough one. I've seen so many shows. A couple standouts. Julian Starr against Brian Fury for an NWN Fire show.
Yep.
Believe it or not, Luke Robinson against PCO at a NWN Fire show at the Augusta Armory. You against Teddy Hart for IWE a couple of years ago.
Thank you.
But believe it or not, Mark Moment and Eddie Edwards had a 3-match series that I witnessed in Fairfield at the community center.
I heard they were awesome.
Over a year-long period that were pretty damn fantastic.
You know why those matches were so good? It's because they were friends.
Yes.
Eddie remembers when Mark Moment used to have the nickname of Lemonhead and trained at Chaotic.
Yep.
So there's he was a 16-year-old kid. So they all remember that. And just, it's amazing how all that stuff, when it intertwines and you finally get to wrestle that person, that match becomes such an incredible stew that, man, you can get more than a bowl out of it.
I mean, I know they wrestled more than this, but the 3 matches that I saw was June 4th, 2010, April 8th, 2011, and August 31st, 2012.
Yep.
And it was pretty awesome. The first time they wrestled, Eddie Edwards was the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, and they went to a 20-minute time limit draw. The rematch a year later, Edwards is now the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And he got a quick pin on Moment to end that match. Then their third match a year later after that. So it's like watching old school wrestling with this build. You're not getting it right away. You're getting it like a year type of thing. But they had a Fans Bring the Weapons match, which my son was 6 years old at the time. And he brought a cookie sheet that he drew a target on. And he had me write Mark Moment's head goes here. So Eddie obliged. But yeah, no, those guys, they had some bomber of matches together.
Yeah. Mark Moment's one of the most underrated indie workers in the history of the state of Maine. And it's a sin. There's another guy that I wish had stuck with indie wrestling here in Maine, and his name is Luke Roberts, better known as Cameron Matthews, to some people Champ Matthews.
I'm a big fan of his as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and he's had some great matches with a bunch of different guys over the years, but one big standout was, and I can't remember the name of the guy he wrestled, unfortunately, because all I can think of is Julio Fantastico, and it's not that. But it was a joint show between NWA on Fire and somebody else, and actually the Julian Starr Brian Fury match that main evented that show bookended this match that they opened with.
Yep.
And I can't remember it now, and it's gonna drive me nuts until I
Luke
find it.
Luke always had a confidence issue for some reason. He always had, and if there wasn't people out in the crowd, and there was always something different, and I felt bad that he felt that in order to wrestle, you need people in the seats, or in order to have a good, that would discourage me most about him. But he's probably one of the best talents ever to come out of this state and not be recognized.
Without a doubt. I mean, I saw him wrestle Sanjay Dutt in Fairfield at the community center there in front of 10 people. Because IW ran a show and Brewer that night. Half the card went up there to wrestle for them. Fairfield, which is usually a nice building, but Lawrence High School right there in town had their homecoming football game that night, so it wasn't well planned when they looked at the schedules. So it was bomb scare attendance. And we got Jerry Lynn against Mark Moment on the show.
Yep.
We got Sanjay Dutt against Cameron Matthews. So 2 great matches, no doubt about that. But it's Yeah. So I know exactly what you mean.
Another one that disappoints me that people didn't get to see was Paul Hudson. He was another one. You remember
I
Paul?
just saw recently. Oh yeah, hot stuff.
Yep.
I remember when he started out with EWA, he was a referee.
Yep.
He started out refereeing for EWA, and then he got into wrestling. He has a beautiful top rope leg drop.
Oh yes.
Oh, the height he gets off that. But yeah, no, he's another guy that that I just actually saw recently. That he's kind of teasing maybe a comeback.
Really good for him.
Yeah, because he wrestled in Limitless a couple of years ago. Yeah, the match with them, a couple matches with them, I think, in a row. Yeah, you're right. He's absolutely another guy that had some great matches.
Who are some of the guys right now on the main indie scene that you enjoy watching?
From Maine or wrestlers that come up to Maine?
Let's give some Maine guys some props. Who are some of the Maine guys right now that you're kind of liking?
Well, you can't overlook Maine State Posse.
Yep.
You know, Aiden Agro and Danger Kid, they started out, I mean, in the last 4 years from where they were to where they are is pretty remarkable. You know, they're doing a fantastic job. Alexander Lee, a.k.a. Scotty by God Vegas, I've been watching him wrestle for 15, 16 years. Yep. So I know he's not new on the scene, but he's been hitting his prime right now as well.
Yes.
He's doing a great job. Ace Romero.
Yep.
Another guy that kind of started with Sonny in IWE, and he was teaming with Roadblock there. And now got a contract with Impact. So, I mean, obviously he's doing well.
I broke my foot on his hamstring muscle.
Oh, really?
Because I give those rare kicks.
Yes,
and buddy, I kicked him, and I looked at him. I was like, I think you just broke my foot. And he laughed. Yeah, I like Romero.
That sounds
What about some of the younger dudes? Have you gotten to see Mac Daniels?
Oh, yeah, Mac Daniels. I mean, he is absolutely coming along tremendously. And I think he's definitely another guy that is going to be. I mean, he's only been wrestling a couple of years right now. Has he not?
Yep, I think he's been under a year. What do you think about Jacob Drifter and Dougie?
Oh, Dougie Weiser and I've only seen a couple of their matches really.
Yeah.
And it's I have no problem with gimmicks, but they're so gimmicky. I can't really see what they can do. You maybe have seen it. You know what I mean? They're entertaining as hell. That's for sure.
Okay,
but I haven't really seen what they can do. You know what is that? Frank Yeager, if he sticks with it, he keeps going.
Frank a lot.
Yeah. He's been looking good. Sebastian Cruz. That's who Cameron Matthews wrestled on that show.
Okay.
It just hit me. Sorry. It was Sebastian Cruz. They opened the show and it was amazing. And the show ended with Julian Starr and Brian Fury. And that was amazing. So there we go. Sorry. I know I just got sidetracked there.
What do you feel was the best era up to now of independent professional wrestling in Maine?
Probably right now.
Okay.
Well, if we're not counting Limitless and Let's Wrestle, if we're not counting those, then probably the EWA Glory days.
Back NWA on Fire days.
NWA on Fire ran a hell of a lot of shows up here, but NWA Fire shows weren't always consistent. Like for instance, when you and Damon were teaming together as the Crown Jewels and they were running some shows all the time, they were doing some good crowds and putting on some good shows. And then they'd go through a phase where they'd bring up, they wouldn't have as good a caliber as talent to run the fairs.
Yes.
Or run little spot shows here and there.
They wanted to cheap out on them fairs.
Yeah, they were so hit and miss with the shows they put on. It wasn't reliable.
Yep, the Savoldis wanted all the money from them fairs. They didn't want to give money out.
No.
Not at all.
No, they most certainly didn't. But it's one of those things. So, I mean, with NWA on Fire, like when they first started, they put on some great matches, great shows, great storylines. And then, like you said, basically they kind of started to cheap out a little bit. So the quality was kind of waning of the matches or of the talent they were bringing in. And then all of a sudden they'd have a show that's stacked with great matches and great guys. And then they'd run this tiny little building in Lewiston that
Yeah.
I had trouble finding, that wasn't on my GPS, and so it was just, yeah. They had some
In
great
your
shows.
words, what do you think hinders the true growth of independent wrestling here in Maine?
I mean, I guess match quality.
Yep. Well,
You know,
if it was to go to match quality, and this is just, I got to saying this to Sonny Roselli,
yeah,
I honestly believe, I love Alexander Lee to death, but
yeah,
he's legitimately the person that is doing all the training
right,
at the Limitless Dojo. I think Limitless has done incredible things with resurging the respectability of professional wrestling
right,
here in the state of Maine.
yep,
They're giving the right place for people to work out. The one
yeah,
thing that hinders the school itself is having a legit veteran that has wrestled legit people that have legitimately tried to make this a living, and
right,
not they work at Home Depot Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday and Saturday and Sunday they're going to, like, legit. The
yeah,
only legit guy that has credibility other than myself is Eric Johnson. And I know Eric has, ran schools or training facilities. I would love to see somebody approach a person like me or Eric to like I've put it out there that I would put my services out there, and even if it was X amount of dollars, I think that once word travels that you can produce a legit wrestler, that the money that they would utilize to bring in legit names to help these kids, the money wouldn't even be looked at come the long run. You know what I mean? Like, Ben's a good guy, but Ben really never received the proper wrestling training to a certain extent. Sonny and those guys broke those guys in.
right,
They really didn't show those guys other than how to hit the ropes and protect yourself. So they really weren't giving a great platform other than saying, here, I'll give you a wrestling ring to wrestle in and fans to
right,
wrestle in front of. You
yeah,
know, that's why I believe, like, you're seeing Ben's best wrestling is right now, or from the past 3 years to now.
sure,
Ben's a name right now on the indie scene, not just in Maine. Ben has built a good name for himself,
right,
but it's still, when you build a name to yourself, then you start to get in there with the talent that can help elevate you, that's actually teaching you, so you can bring those lessons back to your students. So I knock nobody, but I truly believe the one thing that hinders the growth is the experience of the trainer.
no,
Do
I
you
can
think
agree with
that
that.
could be true?
Well, let's take it out of the wrestling for a second. Let's go into like what I did for the last 20 years. I was a 911 dispatcher. So if
Yep.
you have someone who's coming in new to the job, are you going to put them to train with the person that started the week before them? Or are you going to put them to train with the person that's been there for a long time,
Yeah.
or any job for that matter? So if you
Yep.
have someone who is training, no matter what the job for, or whatever it is, the person's training doesn't have the experience, is essentially what you're saying. You're not
Yep.
they can only teach people what they know,
Yep.
so it kind of limits everything along the line. So I get what you're saying. I think another issue that happened with Maine before Limitless, and it was the reputation of pro wrestling kind of got damaged because you had all these companies popping up here and there along the way, all these different, three-letter acronyms to describe the companies, rather it be IWE, NWA on Fire, Intergalactic Wrestling, Vacation Land Pro Wrestling, Main Event Wrestling, NHWA, NAWA, whatever it was. It was always the same guys. You know what I mean? There was always the same guys, same talent pool, same matches over and over. So it's when you're not bringing in outside talent from somewhere, whether it be Canada, outside the state, which I get. Maine's a hard state to get people to come up to. That also kind of stagnated it. Or like Fairfield Community Center, I mean, I don't know if people know this or not. Maybe they overlook it. Fairfield Community Center is one of the most prolific wrestling venues in the state of Maine since 2003 when NWH ran their first show there.
Yep. I won my first major championship there.
Yeah, there's been a dozen companies plus that have run shows at the Fairfield Community Center. And some of the biggest names in wrestling have wrestled at the Fairfield Community Center. But the problem is when you have a company that's established, that runs a show there, that people go up, they pay their $10, they know they're going to get a good night of wrestling, and another company comes in and runs a show there that maybe you've never heard of, and to the lay fan, they're like, oh, hey, pro wrestling's back in Fairfield already, and they go watch it again, and it's crap. It's going to sour the taste of the mouth for that average Joe fan who's not a diehard, who doesn't keep up with it, because last time I went there for wrestling, it was garbage. Why would I want to go back? I think that was another thing that was kind of hurting, independent wrestling in Maine.
How do you look at the state of independent professional today in Maine?
I think today, with Limitless Wrestling and Let's Wrestle, putting on some great shows. IWE's putting on, they're running monthly. Well, obviously before the pandemic, they were running, multiple shows a month very consistently, especially up in Brewer. And then Fairfield, and then there are other spot shows that they've established. You have your promotion. Victory Championship Wrestling running, over in Down East Maine.
Once a month, and I'm content in my little place.
Well, exactly, but it's established. It's something people can.
I try to bring people in from Canada, and I try to utilize people that realistically aren't being used on other shows.
Yeah. But again, where you're running shows like, say, in Machias, that's a haul for anyone from outside the state of Maine.
Yes,
I mean, if it's even out of Boston, it's an hour to hit the Maine border. That's not bad. But now it's 4 hours to get to the show from there. So, because I'm sure some Bell Time Club students probably.
Oh, they do. But I'm more prone to. I'm better off booking Canadians because they're closer.
Yep, absolutely. So, I think right now, the independent wrestling scene in Maine is good. I hope it doesn't get oversaturated like it has.
I think Maine being so spread out that the oversaturation, unless you stop moving into the Portlands and Bangors and stepping on people's toes, that's when the oversaturation will happen. I think as long as people respect where they run and when they run, I think we can do some good things here.
When you were running shows over in Sanford with NWA New England back in the day, you were drawing some great crowds there, cross state lines, if you will.
Yep.
But no one's running over there anymore.
Larry's been trying over there.
No, please forgive me, Larry, that I did not bring. Larry's been running more and more shows as well. He's got his Gino show that he's running frequently. The 18-plus show at Gino's or 21-plus show at Gino's. Plus, he does a lot of his yearly fundraiser shows that he puts on. So, Larry's also
had 2 successful shows at the Nassau Community Center. He's got a guy there that owns a local hobby shop that loves wrestling. That is really helping promoting by the virtual balls. They've really drew their past 2 to 3 shows over there. So it's making a comeback at the Nassau Community Center.
Oh, good, because obviously, it was drawing for you well. I was driving to the shows, for crying out loud. So, that's a haul.
So, we'll wrap it up at this. As a wrestling fan, as a podcast journalist, as a wrestling historian in training, where would you like to see improvement in independent professional wrestling in the state of Maine?
All right, so these are little things. I know this is going to sound this is nitpicky maybe.
It's okay. That's the little things in professional wrestling is what makes you the best.
I think someone needs to start. Okay, so sometimes you go to a show and everyone's music sounds exactly the same.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like everyone picks their own music. I really think whoever is booking these shows and running it has to like step in sometimes and go, we can't have 10 matches on the card, 18 guys coming out to heavy metal music that all sounds the same. Maybe that's
Yep.
nitpicky, but it's got to distinguish something from the other. When you don't have a bell,
Yeah.
okay, it's a wrestling ring, it's a wrestling match. It starts and ends with the bell. Get a bell.
Yeah.
The PA system. You got to have good. If you're going to have someone up there announcing things or people cutting promos, we as fans got to hear it. And there's been plenty of times we're sitting in the front row. I can hear you better if you just yelled than talking in the microphone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So nitpicky things like that, if you will. Don't play the national anthem if there's no flag to salute or look at. Like there's these little things like that that just kind of drive me crazy. And then as far as that, like I love going to wrestling. I always want to get my money's worth, but I don't need a 4-hour show.
Yes.
Like mix it up a little bit. I want to see some countouts. I want to see a time limit draw. I want to see, I'd like to see a good mix. I love finishes. Don't get me wrong, but a time limit draw is a finish. A double count out to build to come back to the next show is a finish. But I think it'd be great to see some of these younger guys go out there and give them a 10-minute time limit and have them work for 10 minutes and actually say it's a 10-minute time limit. Don't have guys out there wrestling a 20, 25-minute match that shouldn't be in there for 20, 25 minutes because they don't have the experience yet. There's Rafi.
Yep.
Okay, he's working his butt off. I see he's been improving. One of his matches I saw recently, though, he did a jumping splash on the guy 6 times in the match, and it was just like he didn't know what to do, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Cut your match down. Everyone doesn't need to go 25 minutes type of thing like that. Those are my nitpicky things.
Cool. If there's one, I'm going to end it one more question. If there's one independent wrestler here in Maine that people need to see, who would it be and why?
It's Matt Daniels as far as being the new guy that people need to watch because before you know it, he's going to be on national TV somewhere.
So it's Matt Daniels, the Miggity Mac.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mike, why don't you pump your social media aspects on how my people can find you and the Wrestling Insomniac?
Well, I have my blog, thewrestlinginsomniac.com. I got over 500 posts on there, various wrestling stuff. I don't talk a whole lot about new things. It's mostly old weird stuff. When I get new signed cards, I put it on there. When I want to look at someone's title run or I want to look at like Chris Candido's 3 months in WCW, I'll do a story about it and post it up there. So check that out. Over on the Nerdy Legion, I have my podcast, the Wrestling Insomniac podcast, and then on Twitter, I'm Superstar ML.
Awesome. Well, I greatly appreciate you being humble with Jason Rumble. You did not stumble. You did not fumble. It was incredible getting an interview with me, Jason Rumble. Mike, thank you very much. And this wraps up another edition of Being Humble with Jason Rumble. Edition, Maine Independent Wrestling. The history, baby. It was awesome. We'll see you next week, baby.